Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about my favorite shows that have aired on BBC. So, as an American, obviously I haven't seen all the BBC shows, but, being an American, I think it's impressive that I'm drawn to all of these shows that aren't even from my home country. That's how good the BBC is, at least from what I've seen. Some shows are better than others, but I gotta be honest, they've done a lot of hits. There's also some shows that I want to watch but haven't gotten around to. So, if I ever do watch those shows and really enjoy them, I'll just list them in the description about how much I like them. Anyway, so this list isn't really in order in which how much I like them. It's not like a top 10 list. It's more just no particular order, just kind of what came to mind. Um, First of all, let me get the obvious out of the way. Doctor Who is on this list. Of course it is. Um, Such an influential show. It's my favorite show. If you look through my channel, you've seen I've made so many videos on Doctor Who, probably more videos on Doctor Who than any other show. It's just, it's such a great show because the way it's structured, you could do any type of plot with it and it would work. Like you could go anywhere in space and time. The setting could be different episode to episode, which I think it makes it really unique. But you still have the same character, so it's not exactly an anthology show. You still have the character arcs and stuff like that. And the Doctor, which is probably one of the greatest heroes ever made. He doesn't. What I like about him is because he doesn't use violence. He always tries to fix things by being clever, or he tries to come to this non-violent solution. But him being an action hero who doesn't do much action, um, somehow doesn't get boring because the ways he's outsmarts the villains are always clever. And I think the show itself is very positive. It's a very uplifting show most of the time. You know, he takes his companions, and most of them are just normal everyday people. Takes them out of their comfort zone, and they become better people through it. And his whole mission is helping people. He doesn't care who you are or where you're from. If you're a good person, he wants to help you. Which I don't know, makes it one of the greatest shows ever made. So bonus points because my grandma had dementia, so one of the only ways I could bond with her was watching Doctor Who. So I guess there's a little bit of that nostalgia built in. Moving on, we have Peaky Blinders, which is a brilliant show. Very opposite of Doctor Who. It's very dark and gruesome. It's set in the 1920s about this English gang. The acting is fantastic. So many great actors in that show between Cillian Murphy, Helen McCrory, Anya Taylor-Joy, Paul Anderson. Just a whole group of great actors, great scripts. How tough it was living back then. Tommy dealing with his PTSD and his self-destructive tendencies. Thomas Shelby is a very interesting character because no matter how much he wins, because you gotta admit he has a lot of plot armor, he's still he's still so self-destructive that he's unable to sustain relationships with people he loves. You have that running through line along with the stylistic violence out of a something like a Tarantino movie. You have a great soundtrack because it's funny because despite being set in the 1920s, the soundtrack is mostly kind of alternative rock, which is from like the 90s till now. It has this like you'd think it would have a tonal whiplash, but it doesn't because it kind of suits each other. I don't know. It's great, and I like how they reference real life politics while still doing its own thing. So it's kind of running parallel to early 20th century Britain, but it's also like telling its own story against that backdrop. It's a great show, and I can now wait for the movie. Moving on to Line of Duty, which I admit I never got around to finishing because the last season wasn't put on Amazon like the other ones. You had to pay for BritBox, and I don't want to pay for BritBox, so I'm never finishing it until until it is released on something I actually subscribe to. Anyway, Line of Duty is a great show. It's about kind of internal investigations into corrupt cops, or as they call them, bent coppers. And the thing is, like, every season has the same characters, but it's a different case. It's a different cop they're investigating. So you think it's just kind of like each season's its own thing. Then as you go on, you realize how big the web is and how connected everything is, and it becomes this huge conspiracy. I like shows like that because it looks like they actually planned it out. The acting's great here between Martin Compston, Vicky McClure, the guy who plays Inspector Hastings and Superintendent Hastings. He's my favorite. He's so funny. But the show's really intense, and they hit you with these plot twists that come out of nowhere. And you're like, oh my god, how come I didn't see that coming? Well, like, the show would always keep you on your toes. Like, you meet this new character, and he thinks he's gonna be a main character, and then he gets fucking pushed out a window, and that's the end of the whole. Like, it's a very high mortality rate in this show, and I like that. I don't know, it's very bingeable. Moving on, we have Sherlock, created by Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss, a couple Doctor Who alumni. This show is really good. Season 4, not as good, but those first 3 seasons I think are fantastic. It's a modern retelling of the classic Sherlock stories by Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock is played by Benedict Cumberbatch and has this very coldness about him with a little bit of humanity, and Martin Freeman as Watson kind of balances him out. You know, their chemistry is so good. And the cases they solve are so interesting, and sometimes you don't see it coming, so you're kind of like, oh shit, like it surprises you. Now, to be honest, like I said, the last season, goes a little too far, and because they'll keep trying to be ahead of the audience, so they try to have these outlandish plot twists, and it just comes off as kind of stupid. But like I said, besides that last episode, the show is really good. I really enjoy it. Moving on to a sitcom, this is The Thick of It, which is the show that made Peter Capaldi famous. It's kind of like an anti-West Wing because it shows how incompetent the government is. It's about it's about the PR team for this minister, and no matter what they do, they keep making him or her look bad. Those 2 ministers of the series, I like the second one better. It's the way it's written. If you're a fan of Succession, I'd say you like this because it's kind of Succession level dialogue on a very tiny budget because it's the same writer, and it's so clever. Like, so the jokes should fly by so fast. You have to like put the subtitles on to even keep up with it. That's how clever the show is. The show only had like 6 episodes a season, but I think that's good because a lot of these shows they keep going and going and going, and they eventually lose steam. This show only had 23 episodes, and it was like airtight. It got even better as it went on. Like I like season 3 and 4 a lot, because they get a little bit more dramatic while also being hilarious, and it's a great show. Very foul. Peter Capaldi's character Malcolm Tucker, a very hard man to like. If you knew him in real life, you would hate him. But on the show, since you don't know him in real life, you love him because he's hilarious. Like the way he insults people is Shakespearean. Like so clever. You're like, I can't believe he strung those pair of words together like that. That level. Moving on to the UK Office, by Ricky Gervais. So, a lot of Americans don't like this show because it's a lot more dry than the American Office. And the American Office lasted 9 seasons, while the BBC Office lasted only 2 seasons. But if I'm being honest here, the American Office fell off after season 7 when Michael left the show. The BBC Office never really get the chance to fall off because it ended so soon, which is kind of a good thing. It's like how Freaks and Geeks or Firefly never really got the chance to be bad because they ended so soon. But I think with the BBC Office, it was his choice to end it, so it's a little bit different. This show is a lot darker than the American Office. Not in terms of like, I wouldn't say it's inappropriate or anything. It's not violent. It's just more like depressing, I'd say. The American Office, you kind of want to look at Dunder Mifflin because all these kooky, wacky characters. What the British Office, everybody's very depressed and lost in life. Nobody wants to be there. It's very, like, it's very real, because that's how I feel when I'm at work. Well, the job I don't like. I have 2 jobs. One of them I like, the other one I hate. I feel like when I'm watching the BBC Office, I feel like I'm at the job I hate. And Ricky Gervais as David Brent is such a great character because he's he's a very insecure man, and he really wants people to like him. But the way he goes about making people like him comes off as so obnoxious that you feel like you have to look away, kind of like that cringe factor you get with Michael Scott, except dialed up to 11. And at the same time, even though he makes you feel uncomfortable, you feel bad about him because you realize this is a very lonely, depressed man. And so you have these like mixed emotions while watching the show because on one hand, he's doing these like completely out of pocket things, but on the other hand, you realize he just does these things because he doesn't know how to he doesn't know how to act. He doesn't he just wants people to like him. So it's depressing yet hilarious. Um, Great show. I recommend it to people who like comedies. If you like The American Office but never really gave The British Office a try, go ahead. It's only 14 episodes. You don't really have much to lose. And just view it as a separate entity to The American Office. Um, I feel like people try to compare the shows that much, but they're very different in terms of tone. Moving on, we have Torchwood Children of Earth. This is kind of like a miniseries that takes place after season 2 of Torchwood. And I like the first two seasons, but I wouldn't really say it's like the best of the best. Children of Earth, that's the best of the best. Um, if, Doctor Who is a sci fi show that could be enjoyed by children, Torchwood, not really. I think the first two seasons of Torchwood were like, oh my god, we're edgy, we're for adults, let's have sex. And people say the word fuck. Like, Children of Earth is actually a mature show. They, you have this very, like, so many ethical dilemmas. It's about, like, these aliens come and they're like, we want to take 10% of your children or else we're going to invade the planet. And so many questions arise from this. Like, should we, do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few? And if we had to select 10%, which 10% would we select? Stuff like that. It's also very emotional because we show how like the lives working for Torchwood takes on the main characters between Jack, Gwen, and Yanto. The show pulls no punches too because Torchwood itself is like this, especially in seasons 2 and Children of Earth. Nobody is safe on this show. Even Jack, who dies over and over again, is like haunted by immortality because he keeps losing people close to him, which is why he keeps a distance. It's a very emotionally engaging show, and I recommend it. Though I do think it's best to watch seasons 1 and 2 of Torchwood so you have more context. So when things happen in Children of Earth, you're a little bit more emotionally damaged by it, like I was. It's a great time. No, it isn't. Moving on, we have Luther, starring Idris Elba. This is a pretty good show, though I have to admit it kind of fell off after season 3. Seasons 4 and 5 were kind of lacking because it felt like they kept repeating the same plots over and over again. Um, but still, those first 3 seasons were great. The it's like it's a emotionally damaged man in an emotionally damaged world. Luther plays a cop, and who an emotionally unstable cop who kind of tracks down serial killers, and you can see the effect the scum of humanity take on him as a person. But of course, the most memorable part of the show is his relationship with Alice, this um, this psychopath who, for some reason, has this really intense bond with him, and their chemistry together, the way it's written, the way they're acted, is so electric. You don't really find a relationship like this anywhere else in TV. Never did bother watching the movie that came out because I heard it kind of sucked. But yeah, those first 3 seasons were great. Season 4 is okay, but kind of lacking in Alice. Season 5 is a bit better, but still not as good because I feel like the show kind of they kind of go formulaic after a while because it's like one of Luther's loved ones dies. He gets framed for it. He has to clear his name. And then they kind of keep doing that over and over again. It gets old pretty quickly. But still, it's a pretty enjoyable show if you like cop dramas and, like shows about serial killers, stuff like that. Moving on to, this isn't really one show, it's a bunch of shows, but they're kind of made by the same team. It's, Planet Earth, Blue Planet, Human Planet, Frozen Planet, anything with the word planet in it. Those nature documentaries narrated by David Attenborough. Um, they're so vivid, and the wildlife they're able to capture with those cameras is insane because you just know they've been pointing that camera at that told or whatever for the past 6 months waiting for something to happen. That's some dedication. And the gentle, like, grandfatherly way David Attenborough narrates it is really sweet. And I don't know, lots of lots of good times were had watching those episodes in science class, and even when they play the marathons on TV, I tune in. And I think any show that like inspires people to care about wildlife has to be a good show. I'm sure a lot of people working in science have been inspired by Planet Earth, or the seven different shows I said that have the word planet in it. And I'm actually surprised David Attenborough's still doing this because he's like 95. He still narrates it. So that's pretty good. I mean, I guess it doesn't take that much work. You just sit behind a microphone. Any idiot could do that. But yeah, so yeah, those are my favorite BBC shows. Let me know what you guys thought. Do you have any shows that you like on BBC that you think I would like? If so, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.